Hello, and welcome to another episode of
the Super Data Brothers Super Show.
That's right. I am Ryan.
And I am Eric.
And we are two real-life brothers who work in the data and analytics industry. And if we got a good one for you today, folks.
You know, Ryan, I'm so excited for today's show because we're talking to a longtime friend of the show, friend of the brothers, friend of Detroit, Aaron Wilkerson. And we're talking about the iron rules to get a data job in 2025. Now, we've been doing this show for, 3 years? And in these 3 years, we've talked about getting a job before. And it seems like right now it might be the hardest time to get a job in all the time we've been talking about this thing. So it should be a pretty interesting discussion.
Absolutely. Now, look, as always, folks, this is a live show. So if you get your questions, comments, reactions into the chat, we will read them. And also let us know where you're watching from. We will shout you out as we go through. Now, let's not beat around the bush. Let's just bring Aaron on and kick things off. Aaron, welcome back to the Super Data Brothers show.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be back here. Loyal listener, loyal follower. So glad to be a multi-time guest.
Yeah, you think it's like between you and Matt Housley and Shantona Tully for who has been on the show the most.
Mm-hmm.
So
ready to go awesome. To the toe. I'll fight him. Let's do it.
It's awesome to have you back. Before we dive in, for anybody who's unfamiliar with you, why don't you let the audience know a little bit about your background and why you are the right person to address today's topic, which is getting a data job in 2025.
Yeah. So I'm Aaron Wilkerson. I'm the Director of Data Strategy and Products at Carhartt. I've been working in the data field for going on 17 years now. Been a leader within the data space for going on 11 years now. So I've done a lot of hiring, so a lot of interviewing candidates for positions at different levels. I mean, I've been at quite a few companies myself, so I've interviewed personally for quite a few jobs. So definitely am a seasoned interviewer. So I think I've had a lot of experience in the space. I watch the job market. Just me on LinkedIn, as you're paying attention, you just see a lot of different dynamics going on that we'll talk about. And also, like, as we have jobs that come up, I would say hundreds of candidates. I mean, we just had a position that we posted a couple months ago, and after I post on LinkedIn, we got like 600 applications.
Oh, geez.
Like over the course of a couple of days, and of that, about 100 people reached out to me directly about it. So I kind of use the opportunity to just have conversation with folks, like, what resumes look like, what are people finding, and you definitely find a lot of commonalities that we'll talk about, but. Yeah, I've definitely in the past, a couple months just have seen just how drastically different the job market is becoming in the data space.
Yeah, Eric and I were talking yesterday, and you shared kind of a story with me, Eric, that I think puts it into stark relief. So, Eric, what is you work at a university?
Yeah.
What is the state of entry-level data jobs and of the people who are graduating from Michigan State right now?
Well, here, I think, so I have an intern right now, right? Well, I had an intern, but he graduated. So I went to his final presentation, like the senior capstone project, where everyone has their poster boards and they have a position in the room and you go up and you talk to them. I would say almost every single one of these graduating data scientists from Michigan State University did not have a job lined up, and they were looking for a job, right? Yeah. And a lot of them were like, well, if I don't get a job, maybe I'll just go and get my master's, push this off another couple of years. So, like, for the young people going in, it's like, it seems like a rough market, because talking to the recent graduates, like, it's not looking good for them.
Yeah, I'll say I'm seeing, like, a lot of the candidates I've seen resumes for, same thing, where they go to these programs. So they go to these masters of data science programs, and the resumes all kind of have those. And I think that's a large crop of the people looking for jobs, of people that do these master's degrees in like data science or data analytics. They think that that's going to help them get a job right when they get out of their program. But that's the largest population I'm seeing of people looking are these recent graduates. And nowadays, like when I was coming out of school, like data wasn't really like you didn't go to school for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you had like MIS degrees, like management information system degrees, but you didn't go to school like for data. So I'm seeing every program, like look in our area, like Michigan State's got one, U of M Dearborn, U of M Ann Arbor's got one, Wayne State University's got one, Oakland's got one. So you have like 5 or 6 universities just in the Metro Detroit area that all have these data science, data analytics degrees, which means they're just pumping out students. So you probably got at least 50 plus students per semester graduating with these degrees. We don't have that many jobs in the marketplace that swiftly to fit all these different people graduating.
Yeah, and is it? I know it's highly competitive. The hard thing for a young person who's graduating with one of these degrees is when you started the degree, it was probably seemed like an amazing decision. Like this was a lock to get you a job.
The upperclassmen you were talking to were like the year you joined were probably graduating that year and getting good jobs immediately.
Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 years later, you're graduating. You're like, what's going on? You know?
So it's competitive market at the entry level. Aaron, is it any different as you move up? Is it okay? Well, look, landing that entry level job is hard, but once you get in, like that next job, that mid-level job, that senior job, oh, that's easy, or is it hard all the way through?
Man, I would say it's hard all the way through because people are applying. The competition is fierce because people are just looking for jobs. And it's hard to tell because a lot of the job descriptions don't say entry level data engineer. It just says like data engineer or like senior data engineer. So even for like a data engineer, it could be 1 to 3 years experience, 3 to 5 years experience. So it's a huge range in terms of years of experience. So you could be. And also look at all the layoffs. So you could be coming out of school, but you could be competing with someone who's had a job for the past 3 years and has way more experience than you do because the title doesn't necessitate an entry versus senior. And same for senior level positions, you could have the experience, but with all these layoffs, it's just kind of throwing more and more people into the marketplace. And with the remote job situation, because before COVID, you were just competing with people that live near you because all the jobs were in person. But now we live in this kind of this remote world where you have people all around the country, all around the world applying for these jobs. And so you're applying, you could be competing with someone who lives in California because the job's remote. So that's also shifted it where it's very tough because you have this huge candidate pool because nothing's like in person 5 days a week as it was. So you're just like, you're not just competing with the same people you live in the 20-mile radius. You have to compete with everyone. And that just makes it tougher because all these layoffs, all these graduation means you have this very large candidate pool nowadays.
That's so we've set the stage. It's tough out there.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into what you can do to try to stand out in this tough data job market. But before we do, we have to thank the episode sponsor, Good Data. Good Data is the premier analytics as code data platform, right? And at Good Data, we're excited to be included on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Analytics and Business Intelligence for the 3rd year running in 2025. Good Data really focuses on when you need to build a data or analytics product, and good enough is not good enough. So this means you have a specific audience, you have a specific vision and needs, and you can't accept like just a generic dashboarding tool with generic dashboarding features to get it done, right? You need something that can, where you can load the data in, you can compute the data, you can store the data in memory, you have blazing performance, and then the front end is composable, which means it's like a Lego kit. You can take the pieces and build it into whatever it is that you need to deliver that just so experience to your users. That's where Good Data shines, and that's what Gartner has recognized Good Data for on the Magic Quadrant for 3 years running now. So we want to thank them for their sponsorship of the Super Data Brothers show. And so Aaron,
Yeah.
you review a ton of resumes. I think a lot of people are struggling right now with how do I make my resume stand out, especially when you can go to ChatGPT and get what looks like a pretty good resume with just a couple of prompts. So, how do you evaluate resumes? What are you looking for in a resume that's going to stand out and say to you, okay, this is someone I need to move on to the interview stage?
Yeah, I always say, resumes are it's kind of like the appetizer. It's the first date. It's the profile, right? You want to get enough information about the person to decide if you want to have a conversation, if you want to have, the first date or second date with this person. So I would say you're kind of scanning through trying to find those main points of, can this person do this job? Do they have the background? Do they have the skill sets to do this job? Is there any particular experience or thing they've done that makes them stand out that says, oh, like they've done, it's kind of like if you go into a restaurant, it's like a menu. You look through the menu and say, is there anything on here that makes me want to order this? And say, yeah, I really want that. So you're kind of scanning through to kind of fill out, okay, do they have the minimum requirements? Do they have certain skill sets? Is there something interesting here that I want to take to the next level, have a conversation with? Is there anything blaring that like, yeah, that doesn't make sense? So I think people put a lot of stock in resumes. I think they are important, but
Mhm.
I think that one of the things I would say is just kind of make sure you kind of share your unique story of what makes you different than anyone else out there. Because I've looked through a lot, and I even wrote a article about this. Is that there's two words I always see people use is pipelines and workflows, and I would say at a certain point you have to notice that pipelines and workflows aren't going to get you a job. Everyone else is going to sell that exact same story. So what is it about you in your history? Like when you went to school, like what did you study? What did you learn about? What projects did you do? If you have work experience, what was a project that you did you're very proud of that you did? If you have metrics, that's great, but I also see the flaw. People talk about efficiency. Well, I increased efficiency by 10%. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like you've seen that metric so much, you're like, what does a 20% efficiency mean? Like,
Yeah.
because you can have all the efficiency you want to, but efficiency just means that you're expected to now do something. You're expected to do something with that information. So I think that's one of the struggles I see is that people use very common words and vocabulary and metrics that don't really mean things. You just kind of scan through it. So it's like share
Yeah.
something about you and your story that makes you shine.
Yeah. Well, part of me feels like any like applicant also needs to have those like base words because like you may not be using an AI to filter through all these resumes, but lots of people certainly are using an AI to like, oh, this person matched all of these keywords, and it's like here's your top 10. So like I feel like you still like you need to put your own flavor on it, but like if the job posting has these words, your resume just straight up needs to include those words.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, like the AI that's ranking this stuff, your resume that you maybe made with AI too. So it's just battle of the bots to see who gets in front of an actual human. But
Yeah, and I talked to a recruiter recently just around that, and I even asked about format. 'Cause a lot of people ask about format, and like, you know what? Like, format doesn't matter a whole lot. It's just about can I find the information I need. So I think readability should be very clear. So to your point, Eric, yeah, you can have some of those words in there, but make sure someone can read it, they can understand it, it makes sense. It doesn't
not
take
a
them
7-page,
forever because they only
not
have
a
a certain
7-page
amount.
essay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They only have a certain amount of time to go through that. So give it to your friends, give it to your parents and say, hey, if you read through this, does this make sense? Like, what do you get from this? Like, just give it kind of like a look through. Just because I know a lot of people are also just kind of throwing resumes out there to every single job.
Yeah.
I tell people that's also not a great approach either.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I see online, you see these reports of people. I sent out 650 resumes in 6 months. I still don't have a job. Is that spray and pray approach effective in 2025? And if not, what should you be doing to try to get in front of potential employers?
I would say, we're data people. I would say test and learn. I would say you cut that into segments and say, let's say you say 600. Let's say take a resume, you send it out to 100 jobs, wait to see what you heard back. If you heard nothing back, and then you take that resume, you modify it to the second 100, and you send that out to 100, and you wait and see and kind of test and learn. So like, say, if you send the same resume out to 600, hear nothing, like you just wasted an opportunity because something's not resonating. So you just wasted 600 opportunities. So I would say take a much smaller sample size and like play around to figure out what in your resume is or is not working. And if you find that one resume is getting you more hiring like phone screens, then I would say key on that. But if you send everything out at one shot, then you really have no way to know what's working, what's not. So I would say do much more of a test and learn approach to try out different resumes to figure out what's resonating and what's not resonating.
And where does a couple other avenues fit in? So I'm curious, LinkedIn, is there an effective way to use LinkedIn to try to get in front of people who are hiring? And then what about in-person events?
Yeah, I would say number one, I tell people number one, they should be on LinkedIn, especially if you don't have a job and your full-time job is applying, you should be on LinkedIn. I tell people just post something, post about your job search experience, post about the last interview you had, post something. Because what I'm finding is that the first thing I do when I look at a resume, the first thing I do is I look them up on LinkedIn. So if you don't have a picture, if you don't have a profile, like some people may think you're a bot, right? So how do you make sure that you're a person? Because I even tell people, like, if you look at your like people who viewed you, if you see a lot of like HR recruiters, like people are looking at your profile, but if you have nothing there, then it's another thing of how do you stand out? So I think at least do the bare minimums, like put a picture there, put a profile there, put your job experience, post once a day or once a week about the job experience. Like you want them to spend as much time learning about you. So give them something to learn about. So I think that's a huge miss is when people don't do anything on LinkedIn, because that's the first place I look to is go to your profile. And if I see a picture from 20 years ago and nothing there, I'm like, okay, this person doesn't care. On to the next person.
Yeah, and then I'd also say, like, as far as like that social media thing, maybe this is me being biased since I have a YouTube channel, but like if you don't have a job and you're just looking like applying and stuff, make a YouTube channel and post some tutorials. It doesn't matter if the most popular one gets 7 views. If I'm looking at a resume and I say, and it says, check out my YouTube channel, I go to the YouTube channel and they have like a tutorial. It's like, oh, this person cares.
Yeah.
Right. Now, like that's the one thing I actually do when looking through like a huge PDF with all the resume, to Control F YouTube. And if they have a YouTube channel, I'll look at their YouTube channel. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's like, oh, this is a real person. They're actually trying. Oh, this is the kind of stuff they do. So like that's another thing I'd add.
Well, it's something that sets you apart, right? At the end of the day, you're trying to set yourself apart from competition who's also applying for the exact same job. So if you're lacking experience or you're not sure about yourself, like do things that's going to make you different, because by simply posting like even once a week on LinkedIn, you're already going to be like in the top 1% of all the candidates. So do those things. And the answer is like, question is, why not? Like, why wouldn't you do it? What is stopping you from doing it? Like you're looking for a job. If that one post is going to get you a job that's going to pay you 80 grand, that's to me an easy decision.
So let's say you've navigated this, you're a candidate, you're A, B, C, D, E, F, G testing your resume. You've got your YouTube channel up, you're posting to LinkedIn, and those things get you to the top of the pile finally. So you get called in for that interview. And oftentimes the first question in the interview, and I interview a lot of candidates, I employ this question because I want to see how they handle it, is I just give them what maybe feels like a softball question, but I think is actually hard to answer correctly, which is, hey, let's do some introductions. I'll introduce myself, and then you tell me about yourself. And I just give them total white space to tell me whatever it is they want about themselves. Is there a right way and a wrong way to handle that question?
Yeah, I think a wrong way is just walking somebody through your resume. I mean, at that point, they've already seen your resume, or they have it in front of you. They can look at it whenever they have time. I think you want to call out those bullet points. Like I said, like it's your unique story. What are the 3 points that make you awesome? You can say, I'm a data engineer. I'm passionate about Lakehouse. I'm passionate about data architecture. I'm passionate about data modeling. I've studied this for years. I've done these amazing projects, but like call out the things that make you different and don't just walk them through your resume and just kind of go company by company. Like that's great, but like give me the summary, give me executive summary of, why you should, essentially it's like, why they should hire you. Like give them the bullet points and kind of give them the story. Talk about when you're growing up and you saw some movie, you want to get into AI and like that drove you here. Like give them somewhat of a story to kind of guide them to how you got in front of them right now and why they should continue the conversation versus saying like, well, I currently work at this company. I do this. I used to work at this company. It's like everyone else is going to say that. So call out the things that are different about you.
I've been doing a lot of interviews recently at Good Data, and I've gotten a lot of that when the response is, I say, tell me about yourself. And they say, okay, well, I started here and I did this, and then I went here and I did this, and then I went here and I did this. And it's just this long, boring walk through a document I've already read. Right. I'm curious, Eric, do you run into the same thing when you're doing interviews? First of all, do you use that question? And if so, yeah. Do you, do you have any standout examples of sometimes someone actually answered it really well? Do either of you, can you share, obviously anonymized, but like, hey, this person knocked it out of the park. And what does knock it out of the park look like?
Yeah. So like from my end, we asked that question. And to be honest, I basically, every time I've asked that question, I've gotten I work here, I did this. Oh, and also I live in Chicago. It's a very nice city. Like that's basically, I to be honest, I haven't gotten like, man, this is a great. So I guess it's good for all the people interviewing because they're all on a level playing field on that one. So.
Yeah, I can't say I don't have any stories where someone like knocked me off my socks with like an answer that was like, oh, like that just got them a second interview. Mm-hmm. But I would say a lot of people I talk to are struggling with phone screens. Like they may be able to get the phone screen, but like, hey, I'm doing all these phone screens and I'm not getting like, the phone screens are with the actual like HR recruiter. So it's using the phone screen, you're not even yet talking to the hiring manager. You're kind of talking with HR. But I am hearing about a lot of people struggling getting past the phone screen. So that is the same advice I give in terms of like, remember whoever's doing the phone screen, if it's HR, they have no clue what you do. Like they're trying to understand, can you communicate? Like, can you explain what you do? So I think if you struggle, make sure you talk with someone, but make sure you communicate well. They're trying to understand, are you a cultural fit? So do you come across as friendly? Do you come across as energetic? Like that's another one. And do they want to work with you? So I think that's a big one, is just like, do you come across as friendly, or do you come across as very nonchalant, very meh, and like you're just throwing people off? So I think that's one of those things where you kind of talk about, Ryan, like helping people interview, and maybe record yourself. People may feel uncomfortable. Record yourself answering questions and watch yourself, or send it to people and say, hey, like, what do you think about this? And if they say, yeah, that didn't work out too well, or why did you say it that way? You did this a lot. Like those are those things I think those are extra steps I think people can do, because I think they don't realize. I think a lot of us have these blind spots. We don't realize where we fall short at. But those extra things I think to try out and say, hey, like record yourself, like speak to yourself in the mirror and see how that comes across, because that can make or break you getting that next level.
I have a funny story about that HR phone screen that I experienced. This was many years ago, 5+ years ago. I had a recruiter from Google reach out to me to join their Detroit-based analytics pre-sales team, and I wasn't looking for a job, but that's a call you take, right? So I got on the phone with them, and they started asking. They had these pre-canned questions, and the person I'm talking to, I knew didn't know anything about the technical. I mean, they were clear too. I knew it. And they said, look, I'm not a tech person. I'm the HR. I'm the recruiter. Yeah. I got these questions. I'm going to answer the questions. One of the questions was, do you have to structure data before you do reporting on it? Or can you just leave it in an unstructured format and do reporting? And I knew the right answer that they were looking for because of the way the industry was at the time. They were looking for no, right? That was the cool thing. Was like, throw the data in the data lake and then point your lightweight viz tool to it and like magic will happen, right? And I said to the recruiter, like, look, I know the answer you're looking for here is no, but like the answer is yes.
Yeah.
You do have to structure data oftentimes to do reporting, but I know the answer you want is no, but I have to say yes. Yeah. And I didn't get a second call.
Well, the HR person he said yes. Answer was no.
He said yes. So I got screened out, right?
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, I didn't need that job. It was something I took because it was interesting, and I was happy where I was at the time. The moral of the story is sometimes you have to be strategic, and especially in that HR screening, I think give the answer that they're looking for to get you to the person who does understand data structures and does understand structured versus unstructured data in reporting, where then maybe you can give a more nuanced answer.
You're right, because I've seen that too in the phone screens. Like they have, and I've done this too, where the hiring manager gives the HR person like a list of like 5 questions, and they give the HR person the answers too, and they say, "Ask these 5 questions. Here's the answers, and let us know if the person answered correctly." I remember getting a question about like Linux. I knew nothing about Linux. I interviewed for a job. I knew nothing about Linux, and I went to breakfast with someone, and they asked me the questions, and I was like, I don't know. They're like, well, here's the answer right here. I was like, oh, yep, that's the answer right there. So you were absolutely right about your HR just kind of passing along the answers and saying, yep, they answered it correctly. And then they use that and say, well, these people answered it right, so let's move along to people who quote unquote answered it right. Unless you stood out and said, you know what, he didn't answer this right, but I really think you need to interview this person because they came across as like, smart, intelligent, and charismatic. So even if you can't answer, like give them something else where it's like, I've had that before. People say, you know what, I really think you need to interview this person. It's like, that's what you want to come across as.
And we have a comment here from Yusra. Yusra, welcome to the show. Good to have you. She says, I'd say yes, too, for structured data. Yeah. I mean, it was just one of those situations where I knew what they were looking for. Maybe it's like the Midwestern boy in me. I just could not. I had to say, no, you're wrong. The right answer is this other thing.
Like you did chop down that cherry tree.
Yeah, I did. I did.
Like, could you or should you? It's like, yeah, you technically you don't have to, but you should structure your data. Like, why wouldn't you, just to make your life easier?
Right.
But yeah, and I do want to. I know you answered it. I didn't answer your question about the in-person stuff. I think that is extremely important. Ryan, you and I co-lead the Data in the D. So I think that we've been having a lot of success, meeting a lot of people, and I would say a lot of people who come to our events are looking for jobs, and it helps to have that face-to-face contact because someone reached out. I get people on LinkedIn all the time say, hey, can you refer me for this job? Can you refer me for this job? And it's like, well, I don't know you, so I can't refer you. But to me, it's like, if you show up, if you take the time to get dressed, put clothes on, look presentable, come out to an event in person and meet someone in person, I told you, I will make the effort to refer you. I would say, yeah, if I know about a job, I'll refer you. I'll say, hey, I met this person in the real world. Yes, they can put together a complete sentence. So I would say that it's the cherry on top, right? It's one of those extra things of going outside of your comfort zone and showing up to events in person, because you never know. Like, we have recruiters that come to our events. You can meet people that can refer you a job. There's people who a month down the line may be hiring for a job. So I would say, yeah, that's the extra, is like actually showing up to events in person and then making the connection of, hey, we met at that thing that one time. I see a job here. Could you help me with this?
Yeah, it's really important. I think coming out of COVID, maybe people felt like, oh, my social skills have deteriorated. But look, enough time has passed. You need to be out there.
Yeah,
that's just the reality, and we see that in our Detroit Data Meetup. I mean, people show up explicitly because they're looking to make a job move, and they heard about our event, and they say, okay, this would probably be a good place to go to meet someone who might have a connection for me, and they're right. So that, I think that's critically important, is to do that.
It's a full contact. I tell people nowadays, looking for a job, it's a full contact sport. It's a full-time job trying to find a job. And you should be using every single tool at your disposal to find a job. I mean, I remember 10, 15 years ago, early in my career, where it wasn't as tough. I remember applying for like data jobs and being like one of like maybe 3 candidates. And I was getting jobs relatively easy because there was only a handful of people. That's different now. That's changed. Like, it's not easy anymore. Like, the competition is way fierce. So to me, it's everything. It's like, it's resume, revamping your resume, it's interview prep, it's LinkedIn, it's in-person events, going to conferences, reaching out to your network. Like, to me, you do every single thing that you can to try and to find a job. You're not going to get it just sitting at home, just applying to 600 jobs at a time.
Yeah. Speaking of in-person, the Data in the D low-key data meetup. If you just Google Data in the D low-key data meetup, it should take you to the Eventbrite page.
If you're in the area, or if you're not in the area and feel like visiting our beautiful city, come to the next one. We have one coming up. It's in 3 weeks, right, Aaron?
July 20 something.
Yeah, July 23rd. Definitely. Wednesday, July 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. Definitely come out.
at Stumble Bum Beer Co. in Troy, Michigan.
In Troy, yeah. Ooh, Northern Oakland County. Ooh. Okay, so let's imagine now we've done our A, B, C, D, E, F, G testing. We got through the phone screen. Now we're in that first interview, that technical interview where you're talking to the actual technical resource, and you get hit with a question that you don't feel you have a good answer to. What is the best strategy for handling that?
I think a lot of people just say it's honesty. It's just saying I'm not sure, or either I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with that, or I don't know. Because the worst thing can happen is if you get caught in like a lie, or like if they have a sense that you don't know, and then they're just going to like go deeper and then essentially expose the fact that you just made that up and you don't know. So I think a lot of these things, it also depends what they're hiring for, because they may be hiring for very specific skill sets that you may not have. So you can just admit to that, say, you know what, I don't have experience with that. And maybe that's not the job for you, but sometimes they're willing to teach people, or say, well, we may be hiring for Databricks and you have Snowflake, but you know what, it's close enough where we can kind of train you up and kind of send you to something to learn on that, because we want someone with like comparable skill sets. But I always say you just have to be honest and say, I'm not sure. Or you can kind of say, I'm not sure, but this is how I think you would tackle that, or this is how I would approach it from this other tool or other skill set. But I think you definitely have to be honest and not try to like do like searches on the side or make things up. You just gotta be honest.
Searches on the side. I've seen that.
Yeah, you're like, hold on for a second.
Well, because I've been talking with other people who've been hiring. We haven't been hiring recently because funding cut at the university. But before that, we were talking about like people like straight up like just doing ChatGPT answers, and like there's ones where you can have someone else talk and it'll be your face and like it'll move the mouth. Like we've seen that, like, and it like disappears for a second. So like as a person who's hiring, there's definitely some interesting things going on.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about like people interviewing and then a completely different person shows up like the day of the job. So I know that's why sometimes they have you like show your ID. You put your ID up in the interview if it's a virtual interview, just to prove that you're the person that.
Oh yeah, it's like, hey, this is me.
Yeah, exactly.
Good idea.
That is something I've seen a lot of over the years. Is I've been involved in many. This happened especially in some really large kind of enterprise projects that I was involved with, where we'd have a BI team made up entirely of contractors. Say we have 8 people because it's $100 million project. Like a whole CRM ERP overhaul I participated in one time. BI is a little slice of that project, but the whole team was staffed by contractors. And it became pretty clear after a couple of weeks that 4 of the 8 contractors had fabricated resumes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it was one of those situations where nobody in the leadership structure wanted to take the fall for having onboarded 4 people with fabricated resumes. So we just kept them. And then they just stayed on through the duration of the contract. It was like a 2-year contract. They never had any idea what they were doing. The other 4 people on the team just had to make up for it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a worst case scenario.
Yeah. And hiring is always tough because that's why they always say like hire fast, fire fast. Because you just don't know. Like people can sound very good in an interview. They can sound good. They can look on your resume. You bring them in. And like in the first week, you just know like, yeah, this is not going to work. Like you try to explain something, they don't get it or they don't understand it. So it's kind of a crapshoot. No one really knows. People who think that they know, like no one knows until that person starts and you realize, are they a rock star or a superstar, or is it a dud? And if they're a dud, then it's just okay, we just need to move on from that person quickly. This is why the people have like 30, 60, 90 day probationary periods.
Yeah.
So I think I get that people are desperate, like trying to find a job. They have to support their families, but also like companies are dumb. Like with smaller staffs, you will get called out. Like the people you work on your teams with, they will call you out pretty quick and say, this person doesn't know jack squat. Why'd you hire this guy? So I think being honest and just being like, I don't think it's going to work out helps out everybody. And it doesn't make you bad. It's also a small world. And you'll realize that like so-and-so knows so-and-so. And they'll be like, yeah, we heard that you were a terrible hire there. So yeah, I think just that professionalism, ethics really goes a long way.
What are so we've covered? Okay, you got a question, you don't know how to answer it. You should just be honest and say, I don't know this. Maybe try to tie it to something you do know, or say, well, here's how I would solve this problem with what I do know. What about other what other advice do you have for that interview when you're talking to the actual technical people who you're going to report up to or be working with? What's the best way to stand out at that point?
I would say remember that an interview goes both ways. So much like they're interviewing you, you're also interviewing that company. So I would say ask questions to learn about the culture. Like if it's an engineering job, tell me about your CI/CD processes. Tell me about how you do version control. Tell me about, do you guys do code reviews, design reviews, like that? Those are those questions where, because you also have to figure out. I've seen it both ways where like you're excited to join a company and you join a company. And then 2 minutes, like 2 days into the job, you realize, oh, this is bad. Like everyone hates each other. They were not forthcoming with the job itself. And you're like, oh crap, I totally didn't, like I was desperate. I mean, that happened to me one time where I had joined a company and pretty quickly I knew that it wasn't the right fit for me. So I think it goes both ways in terms of, you should also ask that company like a lot of very pointed questions, because it also shows your depth of knowledge. So much like you're trying to figure out that company if it's a good fit, you should also be able to, they should ascertain through your question that this person knows what he's talking about. This guy's a pro. He knows, like he's got a handle on things. So I think asking those questions, like tell me about how the team is structured. Like, is there 5 people? Tell me how you work with business partners. How do you get requirements? How do you do testing? Like walk through those, because if there's red flags on the company side, even though you get a job offer, you may not take that because it could be a lot of stress, because as soon as you get in and realize the wrong fit, then you're out there interviewing for like new jobs and you put yourself in the pickle because they're like, well, didn't you just start there? Why are you interviewing for another job already? Or you have to lie on your resume and like, don't put the current company. So I would say it goes both ways. You can ask for multiple interviews, like say, okay, this is a great interview. Can I have another interview? Because I want to talk to someone about this to get more information because I don't understand it. So I think that also adds a little bit of maturity and sophistication by like asking the company, like having time to ask them a lot of very difficult discussions too, to vet out, is that a right company? Is that right a fit for you?
When is the right time to ask the kind of HR related questions? Benefits, salary, PTO. I heard sometimes, I know, I think about myself in the past, there have been times when it just feels like it's hard to identify the right time to bring that sort of stuff up. Ideally, you're applying for a job where they've put the salary band or something in the job in the job request itself, right? But if you don't have that information, when's the right time to talk about it?
Yeah, I think usually in that it depends on how the company does interviews. I think in the initial, if you're doing a phone screen with HR, I think that's a good time just to do the cursory, like, okay, this is the salary I'm looking for. Is that in the range? If they say no, then I think you don't have to waste your time. So I think you can ask in the first discussion with HR rep, like, okay, tell me about the different benefits and things like that. Give me a high level idea. But then going into the weeds, I think that's when you get into like the second or third interview, or like they want to, or they offer, they actually give you an offer. So I think you kind of handle that specifics there. But I would say usually like in the beginning. But if you're like in like the second interview, like your first interview with the hiring manager, I would not talk to the hiring manager about like benefits and vacation and PTO and things like that. I would at least call that out with HR. Or if you go directly into the hiring manager, I would wait until they actually give you the offer. You first want to make sure the range is right. And that's when you kind of wait until like the second, third interview, you actually get the offer discussion to talk about that with HR. Because usually they pass you off to HR. Like once they're ready to give you an offer, like you meet with HR and they kind of give you like the offer and the package. But make sure that the salary is within your range so that you don't waste everyone's time in the initial discussion.
We have a couple comments here to share. Matthew Mullins says, great show, guys. Thank you, Matthew. Good to have you back. Find the Low Key Data meetup near you at lowkeydatahappyhour.com. So no matter where you are, hopefully there's one nearby. And then Ben Walker shares with us, if you're honest about not knowing something, you are already more reliable than the AI that always threatens to replace you. So there you go. So one of the advantages of human employees is they admit when they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so you've made it through the interviews. and now it's time to really evaluate the offer. Do you have any advice on how to approach that final negotiation stage, and how to make sure that as a candidate, you can get to the level that you need without blowing the whole thing up?
Yes, I would say you need to be honest about the number that you want, because the worst thing is to start a job and realize that you're underpaid and you didn't say anything because you were desperate to get a job there. Because like once you get a job, like once you're in there, you really can't renegotiate and say, well, actually I messed up, I want 10,000 more. Nope. Like
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to
That's
happen.
not how it works.
That time has passed. So you really need to like take some time and think and say, what number would I be comfortable with at this job? And you can always go back and say, I was like, if they give you an offer, you can always try to renegotiate and say, hey, encounter that and say, I wanted, like, you guys offered 90, I wanted 100. Because the answer is either they will come back and tell you, like, because a lot of people are afraid. They think that, well, if you come back with a counter, they're going to say, screw him, let's go with the other guy. Like, that typically never happens. So if they say 90, you want 100, you say I want 100, they may meet you in the middle and say, let's split the difference. How about 95 and like a signing bonus or something like that? So, but I would say even like that all happens with vacation, where your last company may have had 5 weeks, but now this company is like 4 weeks. So you really have to be like, from day one, am I okay with this? Am I going to be resentful? Because you cannot show up and then be upset about it, because you've lost all ability to counter, like once you start from day one. So I'll say before you sign that offer, make sure that you're comfortable with it. Talk to your significant other, talk to whoever you need to make sure you're like sit on it for a day or two, because this is your one and only shot to really get the number right. Because once that's done, like the conversation's over with at that point.
I'd say because it's very rare, like, for someone to counter offer and then the company to be like, oh, they counter offer, they're not serious, I'm going to get rid of them. That's not how it works, right? So like when I'm hiring, I have like an HR approved range, and if someone counter offers, right, and if it's above that HR approved range, and like I'll be like, well, most we could, based on talking to you, most I could give you is this much. The most I could give you within the HR range is this much. Would you accept this offer? Otherwise, I can't offer anymore. And if they say yes, then welcome the team. If they say no, then good luck. Good luck trying to find.
But you're not getting personally offended when someone asks for an extra $6,000.
It's not my money. It's not my money. I don't care.
No. I don't really expect people to kind of. I don't expect people to kind of haggle a little bit. I mean, as long as they can justify it. Like if it's like they want another 30, and you're like, you were barely a stretch at what I offered you. So that's going to be a little bit extra. And also you have to be okay with people walking. I've had a couple situations where we've offered someone a job. They came back with a counter. We said, you know what, we can't match that. And then they walked, and we had to go with someone else. So it's part of the negotiation thing. But I always say, to job seekers, make sure that, like, I know that you're desperate. I know you're looking for a job. It may sound like a perfect company, but you have to be okay with it. So make sure the number's right. Or maybe you see it as a development. Like, I'm going to take a lesser salary so that I can gain skills over 3 years, and then I can try to get a promotion, or maybe I can go somewhere else, and then you just want that on your resume. Like, have a plan and have some type of strategy versus just like, I'm desperate, I need money, I'm just going to jump in there and see how it goes.
So we have a great question here from Michael Dunphy. Welcome back, Michael. Michael, you've turned into quite a regular. Thanks for joining us again this week. He asks, any advice on negotiating pay increase during a performance review?
I would say don't wait until the performance review. I would say the second you have a concern about it, I would say bring it up with your leader. Also, have some rationale. Don't say I want a pay increase because I want to buy a new car, or I want to buy like I'm having I'm starting a family. Like, you're gonna have to justify, because your leader, like, always think about your leader. That when you ask your leader is gonna have to go to their leader and like advocate on your behalf. So it can't just be, hey, Michael wants a raise because he thinks he deserves it. No, it's got to be, I've done these projects, I've excelled at my job, I'm taking on more responsibility, I'm helping the company make money. There has to be much more of a rationale. You have to, because they have to go to bat for you. So you have to give them something to go to bat with. And also, pay increases are usually budgeted. So if you wait, you may get hit with, oh, we have to put that in the budget for next year. So you may have to wait a long time. So you want to let people know as soon as you can
Yeah.
how you're feeling so that they can at least put that in the budget or get ahead of it for you. So do not wait until the performance review.
Yeah, like let me know, like if I'm your manager, let me know ahead of time, like clearly what the good work you are doing, right? And then also let me know that you want a raise, because during the performance review, if I know you want a raise, because you have to do things strategically, if I know you want a raise, it might affect the performance review, because like you've given me a clear indication of what you're doing, and you let me know that like, oh, well, Michael was one of my employees who wants a raise. I know there's only so much budgeted for that. Okay, well, he showed me he's done good work. I'll talk to my boss, and when it comes budget time, I'll put in for his raise, and I'll let him know if it was approved or not, right? So like don't wait for the performance. If you're negotiating to the performance review, you're never going to get it, just because you're right, Aaron. It's a lot of times it's a budget timing thing. So if you wait to the performance review, which could be whenever, could be 1 year after you started, like you could be waiting a year and a half before you actually get something.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it take from like 6 to 18 months from
Yes.
the time in which you tell your leader like
Yes.
what you want. It could be 6 to 18 months. I've experienced that personally, how long it can take you to actually get the thing you want. So first off, kudos for acknowledging the fact that you want the increase and saying out loud, but know that it takes some time because like Eric said, like there's processes, there's HR processes, and it's not like, I mean, unless you work for a smaller company, but if you work for a middle to large enterprise, like there's ways in which they do these things, and they're not going to make an exception for you unless you are a top level executive and you have some very much larger power. But you know, if you're an individual contributor, like it's very hard for them to make exceptions for you, so they have to follow the process. But I would say let people know as soon as you can.
What about the I have an offer somewhere else trick? Does that work?
If you have an offer somewhere else, it does.
Yeah, let's imagine you do.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you because I might have a different perspective because I work for a university, so the rules might be different.
We usually ask that. So I would say when we're going through the interview process, we typically ask about the speed, right? Like how fast do we need to move the interview process? So if you're like, hey, I'm actively interviewing in 3 different places, if they like you, they may use that as a way to kind of speed up the interview process to kind of match that. Or if you say, hey, I got an offer on the table, I'm going to decide by next week, that may prompt them to hurry up and get you an offer. I would say, but still goes to the point where you only have so much budget. So you could get being paid like $50,000 more, but it may be, hey, good luck with that. We can't match that offer. So if you're able to share, if you are like that person and you're able to show how awesome you are, they may speed things up for you. There's only so much they can do, but we do consider that, and we do kind of will speed up the interview process and say, hey, we got this person, they're very warm and they're interviewing elsewhere. We really want to get something out there. We'll rush HR, we'll rush our manager to approve the offer. So like we will speed that up if someone says, but I would say have some integrity and actually have an offer. Like don't just say, well, I have an offer just to speed it up and be like, actually, I don't have an offer. So it's also an integrity move.
That could definitely blow up in your face.
Yeah. But though that's funny because from my perspective, working at a university, like very, very rigid old organization, there's nothing I can do to make it go faster. The approvals happen at the end of the month, and that's when they happen. So
it's batch processing. It
is batch processing. But then, like, I think there's another half to your question about like, what about the like during the performance reviews? Like, I have a counter offer, right? Like when that happens, it's like, well, when that happens, it's like I evaluate. Okay, what was the counter offer? And like I evaluate like your value to the team, and then I talk to my higher ups, and if it's like, God, we really need to keep Samantha on the team, right? And then like this is the counter offer. Can we do this? And then like my higher ups may say yes or no, and it'll be like, oh, sorry, we can't counter for that. We could give you an extra this much, but you know, if that doesn't work for you, good luck at the new place. I've 100% had that happen before.
What about with you, Aaron?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of companies say like we don't. I don't say like it's like we don't negotiate with terrorists. Like the problem with that is that you've already interviewed elsewhere, so you've already left. Like you're already gone. So I've kind of read, and there's research about this by HR firms that says like most of the times when someone says they have an offer, you trying to counter them, they end up leaving anyway within like the next year. So I would say if someone is already at the door with an offer, like most likely they're going to leave. So typically you don't counter.
That's true. I've never had a counter offer. I've never had that actually work with their employee stays, right? I've been like, I've wanted them to stay, but like, we can't offer it much. So, but you know, but
Because
it might be a little different for us because we're all our employees are union. So like,
yeah.
There's no chance of us getting rid of them after this, being like, oh, well, we'll need you for the next 4 months. Then we're going to replace you with someone else because we're not in a union. So it might be a little bit different private sector than like university.
Yeah, because I would say if they've taken it to the level where they have an offer, that means that they've been frustrated or they had an opportunity. They interviewed several times.
Yeah.
They have an offer in place. Like they've already went through like a 2 or 3 week, or excuse me, up to a month process. And if they've kept you in the dark, that means that they've shared nothing with you. So it's kind of one of those, you know what? Good luck. Congratulations. Good luck. Hope you have a good life.
And I guess like the advice generally would be, if you do get a new job and they try to counter offer you, just say no. Right, as the employee, like you already found this new job, you're excited enough to apply for, and all this other stuff. Like, don't at this point in your life, like you've already been thinking about this new job. Move forward with it. Like, don't get stuck where you already are. Essentially, that's what I would say. Because like, you know, it might leave a bad taste in the depending the employer, in the employee's mouth, and they might be a little like, oh, they're looking for other stuff. So like, it's almost never going to work out if you actually do take that counter offer.
Yeah, another scenario is where like you said, hey, I would like a pay increase. They say no, and you say, all right, and you interview, and 2 months later you say, well, I have another job. Like here's the thing, or here's the salary, and they all of a sudden come up with the money. Then they'd say, well, why did it take me to like threaten to leave the company for you to like, jump through hoops to find this to find this? So that's another one of those like. You may be better off just, parting ways.
Plus, job hopping is the name of the game these days. Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have about 7 minutes left. Aaron, thanks for joining us. It's been a great conversation. We do have to thank, of course, today's episode sponsor, Good Data. Good Data has made the Gartner Business Intelligence Magic Quadrant for the 3rd year in a row and made a big jump this year as far as their overall rankings on the report. But did you know there's a second report called the Gartner Critical Capabilities Report that I actually think is more useful than the Magic Quadrant? It's like the Magic Quadrant's like better looking, more accomplished younger brother that no one's ever heard of, like Eric. He
doesn't post on LinkedIn as much.
Yeah. So the Gartner Critical Capabilities Report and Magic Quadrant, Good Data dramatically improved their positions on both. In fact, if you check that Critical Capabilities Report, you will see that Good Data is now the 4th ranked tool in the universe for the embedded analytics use case. So go ahead and check out either of the reports to learn about all the great stuff that's going on at Good Data, particularly if you're in a situation where good enough is not good enough for the BI and analytics that you're building. You need to build exactly your vision. Then Good Data is exactly the tool for you, gooddata.com. Check it out and get your free copy of the Magic Quadrant report at the link you see on the screen. All right, Aaron, just a little bit of time left. So we've covered a lot of ground here. I'm curious, is there anything that you think people really need to know about how to find that job that we haven't covered, right? What's the most important unturned stone so far in this conversation?
I would say be specific about who you are and what you're looking for. Don't try to be the jack of all trades. Because I've seen some resumes that show them as like, I'm a data architect. Sorry, I'm a data engineer. I'm a data analyst. I'm a data scientist. Like they just list off all these different like jobs, and it's very confusing. I remember I gave someone some advice. I said, I'm very confused about who you are. Looking at this resume, like which one are you? Like, because there's very different jobs, very different skill sets. If you just looking at data scientist, data analyst, data engineer, 3 different jobs, which completely could be different skill sets. So when you put in your resume that you're like all these things, I think they're trying to be like these generalists, but I would say it's also confusing because I don't know what you are. I don't know how deep your skill sets are. It may be wide, but not deep, but I could be looking for a very deep skill set, looking for a job. So I think I get that. It kind of goes to that. I get what people are trying to do with being a little more generic, but I think if someone's looking for a data analyst, like talk about how you're a data analyst and how you're doing data analyst work, because that's what they're trying to hire. they may not be looking for a jack of all trades because that person sounds like they're confused. They want to do a bunch of different things. They can't focus on something. So I think being very specific about what you are and what you do is very helpful from a job application, resume, interview. And don't try to be all these things because you think it sounds interesting. Like, tell us what you are.
I would say even if you think of yourself, and let's say you are someone who can both build the pipeline, like architect the solution, build the pipeline, and build the front end, right? You have those skills. If you're applying for a job where what they want is the pipeline, then I would tailor it to that and maybe make those other things a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, okay, you're hiring a data engineer. I'm going to take my BI skills, maybe bring it up in the interview. Be like, oh yeah, I can also I'm great at visualization too, if you guys need that. But what I'm really amazing at is the engineering piece and really narrow in on that. Once you get in a company, oftentimes, if you really do have those skills, they will find a way to utilize them. That's what I find, right? If it's like a bonus, you show up and you're a data engineer, but also you can build out the BI front end. It's probably not going to take long before they realize that and you start taking on some of those responsibilities.
I think those are those stretch roles and stretch assignments where that's where you can kind of go extra in the job. But I think you don't want to come across as like, I can do this part-time, this part-time, this part-time, because these jobs are very hard to come by. It's very hard to get these headcounts in a lot of these companies. So I think trying to say, well, I can do all these things for your team, then it's like, you're kind of like, well, I just need this very specific thing because my team is struggling and I need someone who can come in and build these pipelines for this project or can build the visualization, do this analysis. I think, to your point, I would say you focus on one, but then you can say, hey, if you guys need this, if you're struggling with this, I can maybe do this on the side, but I'm committed to doing this. I'm committed to this, this project, this experience.
Yeah. And Michael asks, do you think it's better to try and learn the full data stack or specialize early on in your career? What advice would you give to someone at the beginning of a data career?
I think early in your career, I think it's good to know end to end, just to know the nuances of each of them, because I think it's good to know all the different parts of it and then figure out where you want to specialize and where you want to put your energy towards. I think if you want to do the full stack, usually you're going to be at like smaller companies or like teams of one where it's like they only have one team member. So the team member has to do all these different things. But I think it doesn't hurt. Like, I mean, I've done data engineering roles, BI developer roles. Like, so I think having that experience helps you know about the other parts of the whole. But I still think at the end of the day, you really have to kind of figure out like where your specialty is. Even like these full stack, like, there used to be unicorn full stack data scientists we used to talk about like 10 years ago who can do software development, they can design the model, they can deploy it. But even then, those were very hard to find. And there's limits to which they even know. Like, there's only so much a person can know about how to do certain things. So I would say it's fine to learn about it, but eventually you will have to kind of make a choice and figure out where you want to specialize, or you have to end up at these very small companies that are very specialized, because it's very hard to be a jack of all trades at bigger companies because they've already split apart the teams. So you can't do that. So that would be more towards specific companies you want to work for.
Awesome advice, Aaron. Thank you for joining us here today. I think there was a lot for job seekers to wrap their heads around to try to improve their odds of getting that job in this tough data job market. Where can people catch up with you?
Definitely LinkedIn. Definitely writing on LinkedIn multiple times a week. I have a newsletter, so if you check out my LinkedIn profile, you see my newsletter. Also, co-leader of our Data in the D meetup. So once a month, we have events in the Metro Detroit area. So if you want to meet me in person, you can meet me there. So between LinkedIn, newsletter, or Data in the D, many different ways.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on the show, and have a happy Independence Day, man.
Yeah. Happy 4th of July.
All right. Man, he's a great guest. I love having him on. All right, folks. So listen, if this was your first time watching us, we're really bad at promoting ourselves. So please check us out at youtube.com. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, if you're watching on YouTube, connect with us on LinkedIn. Go ahead and give a like, a comment, and a subscribe. Click that bell button. We have almost 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. About 150 have clicked the bell. So if you want to know when we're going live, the only way to know, thank you, YouTube, for your Byzantine processes, is to hit the bell. And then you'll get a notification to your mobile device telling you that the Super Data Brothers are live. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up as we wrap up season 3. Next week, I believe we have Malcolm Hawker on the show. I will check, but I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, we're going to wrap the season up with Jean-Georges Perrin. And then we will see you in September afterwards for the kickoff of Super Data Brothers Season 4 with a brand new show format to boot. So thank you for joining us here again. Eric, do you have any last words of advice for the people?
Stay cool, folks.
Stay cool, folks. That's a good one. And enjoy, if you're in the United States, enjoy your holiday weekend. And happy birthday, America. Until next time, we are the Super Data Brothers.